Picture this. Two people. Same city. Same morning commute, same paycheck. 20 years from now, one of them is worth $40 million. The other is still renting. What separated them? Not luck. Not a trust fund. Not even talent. They simply understood something that nobody ever bothered to teach the rest of us. Something that's hiding in plain sight, in every stock ticker, every apartment building, every patent filing, and every line of code being written right now. Today, we crack it open. 5 proven blueprints, from first dollar to generational dynasty. You're about to see exactly how wealth is built, at every level, and what separates people who dabble from people who dominate. Stay with me. This one will change how you see money forever. Here is a fact that should keep you up at night. Roughly 6 in 10 Americans have money parked in the stock market. The S&P 500 has essentially doubled in the last 5 years. By every measure, it looks like a rising tide lifting all boats. Except it isn't. 3 out of every 4 retail investors, regular people like you and me buying and selling on their own, end up losing money over time. Wall Street has a nickname for them. They call them capital donors, because that's precisely what happens. The amateur's loss becomes the professional's gain. The wealthiest 10% of Americans hold nearly 90% of all publicly traded stock. Let that sink in. This isn't a market, it's a wealth extraction machine, and most people are on the wrong side of it. So what are the other 10% doing differently? Level 1. The solid foundation. Every investing journey that actually ends in wealth starts the same way with patience. Blue chip stocks. Apple, Microsoft, Johnson & Johnson. These aren't thrill rides. They're the bedrock. Companies so deeply embedded in global commerce that they've survived oil shocks, recessions, global pandemics, and political upheaval, and kept growing through all of it. The strategy, almost insultingly simple. Buy, hold, let compound interest. Do the heavy lifting. Someone who parked money in Apple 5 years ago and did absolutely nothing with it walked away with double. But there's a flaw in this approach. Concentration. When you bet everything on one company, even a great one, you're one bad quarter, one scandal, one disruptive competitor away from a portfolio crater. That's the problem index funds and ETFs were designed to solve. Instead of owning one company, you own tiny slivers of hundreds, sometimes thousands of companies in a single purchase. Tech, healthcare, energy, finance, all at once, automatically rebalanced, historically reliable. For most people, this is where the real wealth building begins. Low cost, low friction, high patience, high reward. Level 2. The Millionaires Playbook. Here's the twist. Nobody tells you. The first move that separates millionaire investors from everyone else. Looks on the surface exactly like the mistake most people make. They pick individual stocks, but there's a canyon of difference between the two approaches. The average person buys on excitement and sells on fear. Millionaires, they buy on research and hold through volatility. They're scanning balance sheets, analyzing price-to-earnings ratios, studying decade-long trends. They're not following Reddit. They're following fundamentals. And they don't just think about making money. They obsess over not losing it. That's where tools like options, contracts become weapons. Consider what Mark Cuban did in 1999 after selling his company to Yahoo for nearly $1 billion in Yahoo stock. Knowing the dot-com euphoria couldn't last, he built a financial fortress around his position. By buying put options, the right to sell his shares at a fixed price, and funding that protection by selling call options, he kept his upside but bulletproofed his downside. When the dot-com crash wiped out fortunes overnight, Cuban walked away untouched. Not lucky. Prepared. Level 3. Billionaire. Tier. The family office. At a certain level of wealth, even the best hedge fund stops being enough. Enter the family office. The most powerful wealth structure most people have never heard of. Imagine your own personal investment empire. A full-time team of portfolio managers, tax attorneys, estate planners, and legal strategists, all operating exclusively on behalf of one family. your family. This isn't a bank, it's a private command center for generational wealth. Inside a family office, strategies become extraordinary. They invest in private companies long before any IPO, the way Jeff Bezos bought into Google in 1998, or how Peter Thiel turned a $500,000 Facebook bet into over $1 billion. They harvest tax losses with surgical precision, selling underperforming assets to legally cancel out taxable gains. And they employ something the financial media barely mentions, the buy, borrow, die strategy. Here's how it works. You never sell your appreciating stock. Instead, you borrow against it. Loans aren't taxed as income. You live on the borrowed capital, investing, spending, building. While your stock keeps compounding, when you eventually pass, your heirs inherit the assets at a stepped-up cost basis, effectively eliminating the capital gains tax entirely. Elon Musk has used versions of this, so have countless others in the 9-figure wealth bracket. It's completely legal, and it's one of the most powerful tax strategies ever devised. Part 2. The property empire. From a spare room to a multi-billion-dollar portfolio, every building you've ever walked into is making someone rich. Every lobby, every apartment hallway, every strip mall, every warehouse. Somewhere, there's an owner collecting a check, and that owner might have started with almost nothing. Real estate has produced more millionaires throughout history than any other asset class. And unlike stocks or crypto, the path in is surprisingly accessible, even if you're starting from zero. Stage 1. House hacking. The accidental empire begins. It starts with a simple realization. Your home doesn't have to be an expense. It can be an asset. House hacking is exactly what it sounds like. You buy a small multi-unit property, a duplex, a trip. You live in one unit, you rent the others. Your tenants cover your mortgage. You build equity every single month while living essentially rent-free. It's not glamorous, but it's the foundation. And once you understand that real estate can pay you instead of cost you, everything changes. Stage 2. The BRRRR machine. This is where things start to accelerate. BRRR. R stands for buy. Refinance, repeat. And it's one of the most elegant, wealth compounding strategies ever built. You locate a distressed property. Undervalued, overlooked, underestimated. You purchase it below market, invest in targeted renovations, lease it to tenants, and then return to the bank with a newly appraised, cash-flowing asset. The bank refinances at the new value, returning most or all of your original investment. You deploy that capital into the next property. Repeat until you've built a portfolio. You're not waiting to save up. You're using value you created to fund your next move. That's not income. That's a system. Stage 3. Institutional power. The levels nobody talks about. Commercial real estate, mobile home parks, self-storage, agricultural land, industrial warehouses. These aren't just asset classes. They're different games entirely. When you lease 2 businesses instead of individuals, tenants sign 5- and 10-year contracts with built-in rent escalations. In many structures, the tenant covers taxes, insurance, and maintenance. Your income becomes more predictable. Your headaches nearly disappear. Self-storage facilities, for instance, have delivered average annual returns exceeding 16% over the past quarter century. No tenants living on site. Minimal maintenance. Highly Bill Gates quietly became the largest private farmland owner in America. Over 270,000 acres. Not out of nostalgia, but because food security and land scarcity make agricultural real estate one of the most durable long-term stores of value on Earth. And at the very top of this pyramid, institutional investors who don't buy one property at a time. They buy entire neighborhoods. They purchase bulk portfolios before they ever touch the open market. They're not just participating in the housing ecosystem. They've become the housing ecosystem. Part 3. The Intelligence Revolution. How AI is rewriting the rules of wealth creation. Rapid-fire montage, lines of code cascading, neural networks visualizing, data centers humming, a lone figure building something at 2 a.m. Every generation gets one moment, one technological inflection point, when the wealth playbook gets rewritten from scratch. The printing press, the steam engine, electricity, the internet. Each one minted a new class of millionaires and billionaires. Each one made those who adapted spectacularly wealthy and left those who hesitated behind. The AI revolution is that moment for us, and it's happening right now, faster than any technology shift in history. Ground floor, the productivity multiplier. Let's start with the most accessible entry point, because not everyone building wealth with AI is launching a startup. There's a marketing professional who used to spend 3 days building campaign briefs and presentation decks. Now she finishes that same work before lunch at a quality level she couldn't previously achieve alone. She's taken on 12 new clients. Her income has tripled. There's a freelance developer who used to max out at managing 2 or 3 client projects at once. With AI-assisted coding tools, he now handles 10 simultaneously. His revenue up 500% in 18 months. This isn't the future. It's happening right now. And here's the brutal truth. If you're not using AI to accelerate your output, someone sitting next to you is, and they're delivering 10 times more value for the same hours worked. The baseline has shifted permanently. Mid-tier. The one-person business MP. But let's go beyond productivity and talk about leverage. The most quietly profitable businesses emerging in this economy are often run by a single person wielding a stack of AI tools. Collectively function like a full team. A fitness coach who once juggled a dozen clients with manual emails and spreadsheets now runs a digital operation that markets itself, tracks client progress in real time, generates automated reports, and handles client questions around the clock via an AI assistant trained on their methodology. Day overhead. Near zero the reach. Unlimited. This is the new architecture of entrepreneurship. One founder, 10 automated systems, infinite scale, the infrastructure layer. Who really wins? Epic establishing shot, a sprawling semiconductor factory, a server farm stretching to the horizon. During the California gold rush, the prospectors got the glory, but the people who sold the picks and shovels got rich, reliably, regardless of who struck gold. In the AI gold rush, 3 companies are building the ground everyone else is digging on. ASML. A Dutch company holds a global monopoly on extreme ultraviolet lithography machines. Devices so complex that a single unit costs over $200 million and requires a supplier network of 5,000 companies across multiple continents. These machines etch the nanoscale transistors that power every AI chip on Earth. No ASML machine, no chips. No chips, no AI. Simple as that. TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, is ASML's most important customer and the world's most advanced chip manufacturer. Every major tech giant lines up at their door. Apple, Nvidia, Google, Amazon. In 2024 alone, TSMC cleared over $35 billion in profit. If their factories stopped tomorrow, the global tech industry would grind to a halt within months. And then there's Nvidia. Born as a gaming graphics company, Nvidia's chips turned out to be perfectly architected for something far more valuable: training the massive neural networks behind modern AI. ChatGPT, trained on Nvidia. Google's models run on Nvidia. Elon Musk's Grok model required over 200,000 Nvidia chips for a single training run. Nvidia's market cap recently surpassed $3 trillion. Not because gamers needed better frame rates, because the future of intelligence runs on their silicon. These 3 companies aren't competing for gold. They own the mining infrastructure itself. Whatever happens in the AI economy, whoever wins, whoever loses, they collect their toll at the gate. Part 4. Money while you sleep. The architecture of perpetual income. Slow motion shot. A mailbox being opened. Checks falling in slow motion. The sound of a bank notification ping. Answer this honestly. If you stopped working tomorrow completely, permanently, how long before the money runs out? Weeks, months, maybe a year, if you're disciplined. For the truly wealthy, the answer is a different word entirely. Forever. Not because they work harder, but because they've built income streams that operate with or without them. Let's examine exactly how that gets done and how you can start building your own. Intellectual property. Owning the idea, James Dyson spent years and tested over 5,000 prototypes trying to solve a problem that annoyed him. Vacuums that lost suction. The result wasn't just a product, it was an empire built on patents. When you own a patent, you own the legal right to an idea. Any company that wants to build something using your concept has to pay you. You don't run a factory, you don't manage employees. You simply own the intellectual framework, and the world pays you for access. Royalties work the same way. When Mariah Carey recorded a song in 1994, she created an asset that still generates roughly $2.5 million every December. 30 years later, without any additional effort on her part, every mall speaker, every holiday film, every social media reel that plays that track sends a payment her way. That is not a side hustle. That is a perpetual income machine. Digital products, the infinite shelf. The most scalable income asset ever created might be a digital product. Unlike a physical product, a digital file costs nothing to duplicate. An online course created once can be sold to 10 people, or 10 million, with zero additional production costs. An ebook, a template library, a software tool. Once built, these assets sell continuously without restocking, without shipping, without staffing. Russell Brunson built his company's foundation on a PDF ebook, published without a publisher or printer. Over a decade later, that same document still generates revenue. The internet eliminated every barrier between creators and their markets. The window for individual creators to build sustainable passive income has never been wider. Licensing, franchising, and the landlord of ideas. George Lucas didn't get rich from selling movie tickets. He got rich from owning the Star Wars universe. By licensing the rights to manufacture toys, games, apparel, food products, theme park rides, and hundreds of other merchandise categories, Lucas collected royalties without manufacturing a single item himself. The total merchandise revenue from Star Wars now exceeds $50 billion, roughly twice what the films have earned at the box office. That's licensing. You own the intellectual property. Other companies do the work. You collect a percentage of everything they earn from using your creation. McDonald's took a similar philosophy and applied it to business systems. Ray Kroc didn't need to run every hamburger stand in America. He built a replicable formula, the brand, the process, the standards, and sold the rights to local operators. Over 38,000 locations later, McDonald's Corporation collects fees and royalties from franchisees, while also acting as their landlord, owning the land beneath nearly half their restaurants. The system generates income from multiple angles simultaneously. Dividend investing, getting paid just for owning. Warren Buffett bought a significant stake in Coca-Cola in the late 1980s. He has never sold a single share. Those shares now pay him over $700 million annually in dividends. Not from trading, not from timing the market, but simply from holding a position in a company that keeps making money and sharing it with shareholders. He shows up to no meetings. He manages no operations. He simply owns a piece of a business that was built to run without him. That is, the quiet power of dividend investing. Companies distribute portions of their profits to shareholders on a regular schedule. The more shares you own, the larger your distribution. No clients to manage, no hours to track. Your capital is doing the labor. Part 5. Wealth that outlives you. The 7 assets that survive centuries. Cinematic sweep through a grand estate. Ancient architecture, a vault door opening to reveal stacks of gold bars. Artwork on museum walls. There's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich is a number. Wealthy is a system. Bank accounts get frozen. Currencies collapse. Markets crash to zero. Most family fortunes dissolve within 3 generations. Lost to bad decisions, bad timing, and bad planning. But the Rockefellers are still wealthy, 150 years after Jardine built the first oil empire. The Rothschild family has been among the world's wealthiest dynasties since before Napoleon reorganized Europe. What do they know that most people don't? They understand stores of value assets that don't merely hold their worth, but compounded across decades and generations, regardless of what the economy does around them. Outro: the closing frame. Wide shot. A single figure at the edge of a cliff at sunrise, looking out at an ocean of possibility. The music swells, then softens. 5 blueprints. Thousands of proven paths. Stocks that compound through decades. Properties that generate income while you sleep. Technologies that reward those who move first. Passive assets that outlast careers. Stores of value that survive economic winters. None of this is magic. None of it is luck. Every single strategy we've walked through today has been used by real people. People who started with far less than you might think to build something that outlasted them. The question isn't whether these paths work. History has already answered that. The question is, which one are you going to take? The door is open. What you do with that is entirely up to you. Hold on to sunrise. Fade to black. End card. Subscribe. Comment which path you're starting with.